Tonight, a Black Lives Matter protest collides with coronavirus restrictions. The Premier's big U-turn 24 hours after guaranteeing demonstrators' rights. Authorities head to the Supreme Court to stop thousands protesting in Sydney. The divided states are united for a moment by one man. A nation pauses to remember George Floyd, whose death sparked all the protests, until fresh police violence shattered the peace. Police crack an enormous child abuse ring centred on the New South Wales town where William Tyrrell disappeared. The war of words in the Hills district over an attempt to rewrite history, a Kellyville mum's crusade for an acknowledgement to country. I was a coward. Tears from the runaway driver who caused this Sydney crash and left his mates trapped and injured to flee the scene. And breaking news in the NRL, fans to return to games next week. We've got all the details.
This is 10 News First, Sydney, with Hugh Riminton.
Well, good evening. Tonight, just 24 hours after guaranteeing that protesters have a right to hold a Black Lives Matter rally in central Sydney, today a stunning backflip from the Premier. This afternoon, she and the police chief went to the Supreme Court to try to get it to ban the demonstration. The initial plan was for an estimated 10,000 people to march from Town Hall to Belmore Park. But all that changed this afternoon amid fears the crowd could spread COVID-19.
Gladys Berejiklian yesterday vowed not to stand in the way.
I would never want to be in a position where we took away the right of people to demonstrate.
Today, she changed that position completely.
And simply the number of protesters far exceeds the health orders, and we can't afford to have exceptions for anybody.
The plan was for around 10,000 people to march supporting the Black Lives Matter movement in the wake of the demonstrations in the United States.
Black Lives Matter!
And not just for George Floyd, also for David Dungay Jr., an Indigenous man who died after being restrained face down in Long Bay Prison. Both of their final words were, "I can't breathe."
We're not going to stop, we're going to march. We don't care what any acts of law tells us what to do, because those acts of laws are killing us.
She may want to, but authorities are united against her.
And I say to them, don't go. Not because you shouldn't express your view, find another way to express your view. We all found a way on Anzac Day to thank those who gave us our liberty.
And if they haven't complied with the Supreme Court, then obviously all the police powers that are available to us can be used. But we would much rather see a peaceful outcome.
With pressure from within the state government,
anybody who goes to a mass gathering during a pandemic is certifiably insane.
Look, you can't defend the indefensible. I think it's ridiculous.
The Premier eventually fell into line.
When a protest organisation cannot guarantee that those participating in the protest will adhere to social distancing, will adhere to the health orders, that is deemed an illegal act.
A line also followed in Victoria.
Point is, it is not safe to gather in large numbers. That's why we are advising people, do not go to that protest.
Social distancing wasn't being enforced at a similar protest in Canberra this morning. Authorities today took the fight to the Supreme Court with grave concerns public health orders won't be followed if 10,000 people descend on the streets of Sydney.
Commissioner met with the Premier this morning, and what had been a cooperative arrangement with the police for the last week to organise this protest was turned on its head in that meeting.
Hugh, we're here at the Supreme Court tonight and we're still waiting on a decision as to whether or not this protest will be deemed legal or illegal. As you can see, we've got the media here, we've got protesters, we've got organisers patiently waiting to find out what the verdict will be. However, they will be protesting regardless of the decision. They have vowed they will not be silenced on this issue. Organisers held a news conference here this afternoon, and this is where they expressed their disappointment with the New South Wales Police for trying to stop this march from going ahead. They said from the very beginning, from the processing stages of planning this entire protest, that they've had very strict social distancing measures in place. They will have marshals walking in the march, ensuring that there is a safe distance between everyone participating, that hand sanitisers will be handed out, and also masks. The message is very clear. The sentiment is clear tonight, Hugh. They will march regardless, and they will not be silenced on this issue.
And now it's down to the courts. Stella Todorovic, thank you very much. While the last 10 days have been all about division, today the United States were united, at least for a little while. Mourners at a packed memorial service stayed silent to honour George Floyd, the man whose death in custody sparked protests around the world. Those demonstrations continued today with new claims of sickening violence from police. And a warning, some of the pictures we're about to show you are graphic. Here is our US correspondent, Eamon Ashton Atkinson.
For 8 minutes and 46 seconds, they stood silent.
That's how long he was laying there. There's no excuse.
George Floyd gasping for air under the knee of a Minneapolis police officer.
It's time for us to stand up in George's name and say, get your knee off our necks.
Amazing grace.
He did not die of common health conditions. He died of a common American criminal justice malfunction.
There was also celebration for the joy his 46 years brought to those close to him.
You know, George, he was like a general. Every day he walks outside, there'd be a line of people, just like when we came in, wanted to greet him and wanted to have fun with him.
But his gold-plated coffin departed in an atmosphere of anger.
That could have been my daddy! That could have been my brother! That could have been my cousin! That could have been my nephew!
No justice, no peace! Prosecute the police!
Down the road, 3 of the police officers involved in his murder were facing court, with bail set at just under $1.5 million each. One of them, Thomas Lane, only had his badge less than a week.
What would your state of mind be if you were work your rear end off to become a cop, and 4 days on a job you're accused of murder?
Despite pleas from George Floyd's brother to end the violence,
I'm proud of the protest, but I'm not proud of the destruction.
There were more clashes across the country today. That sickening thud is a man hitting his head on the pavement in Buffalo, New York, as police try to enforce a curfew. Fortunately, he only suffered a concussion. Officers also appeared heavy-handed in LA, where thousands flooded the streets in protest.
We understand that nobody should lose their life for a petty crime.
Days of hostility have eased in the national capital, but authorities there are bracing for more trouble. In the past, presidents have been worried about fortifying the White House, not wanting to make it look like democracy was under siege. Today, the military has moved out from the front, but the fence line was extended again. More high-profile names joined the chorus of condemnation of George Floyd's death, Meghan Markle drawing similarities to the Rodney King riots in LA back in 1992.
I am so sorry that you have to grow up in a world where this is still present.
Perhaps this time around, it'll be the 8 minutes and 46 seconds which changed the lives of this family that might change the world. Eamon Ashton Atkinson for 10 News First in the United States.
Well, back home, police have broken the biggest online network of child sex offenders seen in this country in recent years. The crimes were committed against vulnerable children here in Australia, and they centred on the New South Wales town where William Tyrrell disappeared.
It's an online network that's left some of our most seasoned officers shaken to their core. 2 men arrested yesterday near Kendall on the New South Wales mid-north coast are accused of sexually abusing at least 8 children since 2018, the youngest just 4 years old.
Child exploitation in Australia is becoming more prolific. The victims are getting younger and younger. This type of offending is becoming more violent and brazen.
One of the accused worked in childcare until 2018. The men, aged 21 and 26, knew some of the victims through family, others were opportunistic.
We will also allege that they made recordings of these alleged crimes to share with others and accessed other abhorrent content online.
The arrests took place just streets away from where William Tyrrell disappeared 6 years ago, but both the Australian Federal Police and New South Wales Police deny any links at this stage. Both men were refused bail in court today. They're the latest to be slapped with charges under Operation Arkstone, an AFP-led investigation which began in February following a tip-off from the US National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children.
We use the best experts to prevent and pursue those who commit the most abhorrent acts against our children here in Australia.
A total of 9 men have been arrested on 40 charges. Most are from New South Wales. One is from Hervey Bay in Queensland and another from Western Australia. Both of those men are accused of receiving child exploitation material online. The 64-year-old Perth Hills man was granted bail when he appeared in court today.
We suspect this is the biggest domestic child exploitation network uncovered in recent times.
14 children have now been saved from further harm thanks to this operation. Police say it all came about by following a trail of breadcrumbs from one offender to another. And the investigation is far from over.
We are coming. We are coming after you.
Samantha Butler, for 10 News First.
Overseas buyers looking to invest in Australia could soon face a new national security test under a major government overhaul. It would be the biggest reform in this area for 75 years and give the Treasurer the power to overturn sales that are considered sensitive.
As the world lunges from one crisis to another, the Australian government is moving to safeguard national security, announcing a major overhaul of its foreign investment regime.
Investment in Australia must be on our terms, on our rules and in our interests.
There are concerns some sensitive sectors are escaping screening.
Investments in critical infrastructure and sensitive businesses and data centres and things of that nature. Australia has the most liberal set of rules in our part of the world.
Oh, I think everybody in Australia knows that everything worth owning is owned by foreigners.
The proposal includes a tough new national security test, the capacity to review all sensitive sales, new investigative powers, and the ability to prevent or overturn deals.
The world over, governments are seeing foreign investment being used for strategic objectives, not purely commercial ones.
But it won't be retrospective, which means the Darwin port will remain under Chinese control.
It was not sold with the authority of the federal government. The weaknesses in the system that sale identified were addressed.
Much as I love them for their initiative, I've got to call them out. If you're fair income, take Darwin back.
The planned new legislation was in the works pre-pandemic, but the timing threatens to fray already tense relationships.
Of the nearly $4 trillion of foreign investment in our country, more than 20% comes from the United States, more than 10% from each of the United Kingdom and Japan, and a little over 5% from China.
But PM Scott Morrison doesn't believe it will further irritate Beijing.
No, I don't believe why it should. I mean, countries make decisions on their own interests for their own rules.
The coalition is pushing for the legislation to be passed by the end of the year. Tegan George for 10 News First.
A baby formula crime syndicate has been busted with 2 more women charged with shoplifting the products from retailers across Sydney. Their arrests came after detectives executed search warrants in Sydney's southwest last month, seizing 250 tins of formula, $45,000 in cash and other allegedly stolen items. Police claim the women were involved in the coordinated theft of baby formula. 4 people are now before the courts. An Irishman who crashed a car in eastern Sydney while drunk and then fled while leaving his injured mates behind cried in court today, admitting he was an idiot. Terence Wilkinson was given a 2-year intensive corrections order, the most serious punishment available, without going to prison.
If this hug is anything to go by, Terence Wilkinson feared he might go to prison today. This is the aftermath of a boys' night out gone wrong. Last July, Wilkinson was driving to a friend's house after drinking 9 schooners. The court heard his friend Kieran, who would later have to be cut from the front passenger seat, had pulled the handbrake up as a joke. Wilkinson, who was more than double the alcohol limit, lost control and smashed into a parked van in Sydney's east. I could see Kieran. He looked like he was passed out, and I tried to wake him. Joe was in a bad way, but awake, and he said, "Run, Terence, run." Wilkinson ran off, yelling at a witness to call an ambulance. Kieran suffered a brain injury and spent weeks in intensive care, and Joe had fractures and bruises.
You apologised and said you were sorry. Do you have anything to say to your friends?
The court also heard 2 days after the crash, Wilkinson sitting on a flight bound for Dublin, messages of friends saying, "I had to leave. If the cops got me, I'd be locked up." Within minutes, feds swooped in, arresting him before the plane took off.
Terence, do you regret getting onto that plane?
His family dialed in from Ireland to hear the sentence. Wilkinson cried and called himself a coward. In her sentence, the judge said his early guilty plea was a consideration, and that while charges of grievous bodily harm and fleeing the scene are serious, his risk of reoffending is low. Wilkinson hopes to stay living and working in Australia. Antoinette Latouf for 10 News First.
And a driver has been charged after an awful crash in Bankstown, which saw an elderly woman sent flying. The 78-year-old remains in a critical condition tonight, her family at her bedside.
Security cameras captured the calm before the chaos as Bridget Birchall brought her hatchback to a halt in this suburban street. She inspected her car and spoke to a passerby before unwittingly stepping out into the path of an SUV.
She's been struck by a vehicle at medium to high speed and she's sustained really serious injuries.
Her clothes and belongings were sprawled across Oxford Avenue as paramedics fought to save her life. 10 News First understands Miss Birchall suffered severe internal injuries as well as fractures and broken bones.
Those crews have worked very hard here on scene to do as much as possible to stabilise the lady.
This 78-year-old woman remains in hospital where she's undergoing treatment.
Miss Birchall's family believes that her car may have broken down and she pulled over to get help. The 31-year-old man behind the wheel of the SUV will face court in August on several charges.
Dangerous driving, occasioning actual bodily harm, negligent driving, occasioning actual bodily harm and also driving in a manner dangerous.
Police wouldn't be drawn on whether speed played a role in the crash, but they do believe it was preventable.
This is a message for all motorists, all drivers of motor vehicles to make sure that they can see pedestrians and give them right of way on our roads.
Michael Hammond for 10 News First.
Well, it is, of course, the eve of a long weekend. It's the first one in a long time where we have been able to hit the road. Paris Martin is in North Sydney for us tonight. Paris, how's the traffic looking?
Well, Hugh, you might be able to see behind me that there are still a fair few cars heading out of the city over the Harbour Bridge, but traffic is still moving and that is the main thing. But right now, we will take you to this live chopper shot. The helicopter is currently hovering over Pennant Hills Road. You can see just how congested it is over there in both directions. A lot of this heavy traffic is likely because, as you say, this is the first weekend where people are actually able to move around the state with regional travel restrictions eased on Monday. Now, while it has been a bit quieter on our roads and with road policing in recent months, police say they will be out in force over the Queen's Birthday long weekend. They'll be making their presence known, patrolling our roads. Our cameras have already captured this RBT at Ultimo this afternoon, and we're being told to expect more all across the state. We're getting the usual messaging that people should not be getting behind the wheel under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Drivers need to be wearing their seatbelts. They've got to be adhering to the speed limit and also not making sure they are wearing a seatbelt. Anyone caught doing the wrong thing will not only be slapped with a hefty fine this weekend, but also double demerit points.
So we're predicting that there's going to be a lot of people taking advantage of this situation, a lot of people going and visiting friends that they mightn't have seen for a while, and also a lot of people visiting regional New South Wales. You'll see more police than you've seen around for a while. Get used to it because we're going to be there for a long time.
When it comes to road safety, there is a small silver lining from this pandemic. The state's road toll is actually down this year. It's currently sitting at 130 lives lost, and police really are hoping these hefty penalties over this long weekend will ensure drivers are doing the right thing and enjoying their newfound freedoms safely. Hugh?
Absolutely, Paris, thank you. And we've got some breaking news right now about the NRL, so let's go straight to Ros Kelly. Ros, it seems the fans are coming back.
Hugh, when round 5 of the NRL kicks off next week, some fans will be allowed inside the stadium to watch the game live. 10 News First just spoke to the Code's boss, Peter V'landys, who tells us they have permission to open catered areas such as corporate boxes and function rooms. However, they must abide by the same legislation as pubs and clubs, 50 people per 200 square metre. And anyone entering the stadium will be put through strict biosecurity checks. Now, this is a bid to get sponsors back watching the game, and it means V'landys is one step closer to his goal of opening general admission seating areas by the 1st of July. Hugh?
Fantastic news, Ros. Thank you. We'll stay with us still to come. The results are in from James Tedesco's COVID-19 test. A fourth man is arrested over a deadly Sydney home invasion, while police are still hunting for more suspects. Revealed the name and face of the new suspect in the disappearance of young Madeleine McCann. Also, police tracked down the suspect behind this attack in Western Sydney. And the local legend who has proved you are never too old to be an environmental warrior.
Leads at halftime, you win. That's right. Lead at the half and we'll pay you out straight away as a winner. PointsBet.
At Coles, there's over $100,000 worth of prizes to be won. Spend $20 in one transaction at Coles, scan your Flybuys card and receive one entry into the prize draw. Plus, get a bonus entry when you buy selected products. Coles, good things, great value.
To help get your dream of a new home back on track, we're giving you an incredible $45,000 cash discount on all Mojo homes. This offer is only available for a limited time, so visit a display home today.
Don't miss a moment. New by Solven Duo Syrup is a 2-in-1 formula traditionally used to soothe an irritated throat and relieve an associated dry cough. By Solven Duo, moments uninterrupted. On special this week at Coles.
It's Gogglebox, like you've never seen before.
Kim Jong-un has resurfaced.
I'm really happy now. It's really made my day.
And this time, it's celebrities on the couch.
Oh, that's James Brown.
No, James Brown is dead.
Oh.
Join the famous and their families.
Take it up. Who the is that?
For Celebrity Gogglebox USA, Thursday on 10.
Police have made a fourth arrest over the stabbing murder of a Riverstone man, with police suspecting revenge as the possible motive. 3 teens are already behind bars over the killing, while a 5th man remains on the run.
This is Travis Murdoch. He's 20, but with a baby face. Police allege he's a killer. Last night, accompanied by his lawyer, Murdoch handed himself in.
You'll be defending it, you'll be pleading not guilty?
We don't know in terms of pleas. We don't wish to make any comments.
Police allege Murdoch and 4 others went to the Riverstone home of 39-year-old concreter Kevin Cortis and stabbed him to death when he opened the door. Kevin's 34-year-old girlfriend also suffered minor injuries. Another woman was unharmed. Detectives released security vision of the car they believe was used by the gang. The Subaru was found torched in a nearby park. Kevin's family has been so stricken with grief they've not spoken publicly, but have set up a GoFundMe page to help return his body to Cyprus. They say he was a hard-working and kind-hearted man and didn't deserve such a tragic ending. Detectives have been working around the clock here to solve this case. 3 teenage boys already behind bars along with Murdoch over the killing. The focus is that at least one of the gang is a former disgruntled employee of Kevin's, and the hunt is on for one more alleged killer. Murdoch will stay behind bars awaiting his court date next month. Steve Hart for 10 News First.
A 15-year-old boy has been charged after allegedly assaulting and robbing a food delivery rider in Sydney's West. As we showed you last week, a man approached the rider outside Wentworthville railway station and kicked him in the head before threatening him with a knife and then demanding money. The delivery rider fled to a nearby shop while the teenager allegedly stole the man's scooter, food delivery bag and wallet. The boy was arrested yesterday and will appear before a children's court. A South Coast zoo has decided not to euthanise 2 lions, one of which attacked one of their keepers last week. Jennifer Brown was seriously injured when the animals turned on her at Shoalhaven Zoo last Friday. In a statement, the zoo says she is now recovering well in hospital and has regained consciousness. Marina Ivanovic is up in the chopper for us tonight. Let's get a little more on the traffic situation. Marina, what are you seeing?
Well, Hugh, you can definitely tell it is the start of a long weekend. The roads are extremely busy tonight, in particular Pennant Hills Road. Everyone wants to get onto it tonight, Hugh. As you can see, south of the M2 through Carlingford, an absolute crawl. North of the M2, an absolute nightmare up towards the M1. And the M2 itself really struggling citybound on the approach. I'm Marina Ivanovic in the Aussie Home Loans Traffic Chopper.
Well, ahead of a long weekend, we put on the big binoculars on the weather forecast. No one has a bigger pair than our own Tim Bailey. What are you seeing, Tim?
I see a good time, Hugh. I see a longing for a long weekend, rarely matched in New South Wales history. I see everyone hightailing it for a whale of the time. Tweed Coast, I reckon a few of us will be headed up that way. That was us today. How did we go temperature-wise on a fabulous Friday? Minimum 7, maximum 18, currently 16 degrees. Hugh, I can tell you, Saturday, beautiful. Sunday, Monday, not so. But it's a long weekend and we can travel. What a beauty.
Not bad, is it? Thank you, Tim. We'll see you later on in the bulletin. Coming up next, why a community in Kellyville is at war with its council. Plus, Prince Charles on what it's like to have COVID-19 and what he has missed the most during isolation. Today's petrol prices around the suburbs of Sydney. The cheapest we found was at Bass Hill. The average price across the city tonight is $1.07.
Your home means more than ever, and so does having the right home loan. To understand your options, go straight to Aussie. We'll help ensure you have the right loan for right now.
Scarly half-yearly clearance. Hurry!
The world could do with some good, but why throw eggs when you can scramble them? With a hot pan and a little Lurpak, a cook can tame the wild, feed the hungry, and nourish the weak. So choose your weapon, embrace the unwanted, and transform nothing into everything. The world needs more cooks, because where there are cooks, there is hope. Yum.
Life's changed for all of us, but Bupa's here to help. Because isolation shouldn't mean you're on your own. Because you can't get out, we'll help you at home. Because our health has never been so important. And because by staying apart, we'll get through this together. Bupa, because life happens.
Meet the crew. They got their own way of betting. And this is me. I've always got the answer.
Make this Saturday one to remember. Get $5 odds for either Dawn Passage or Victorum to win the Stradbroke Handicap. PointsBet.
Saturday at Super Cheap Auto, get 25 to 50% off everything store-wide and online. Get 30% off these and 50% off these. 25 to 50% off everything store-wide. Saturday only at Super Cheap Auto. It's Gogglebox, like you've never seen.
Who the is that?
New Celebrity Gogglebox USA, Thursday.
Well, welcome back. Police in Germany have now put a name to a new suspect in the disappearance of young Madeleine McCann in Portugal 13 years ago. He is a known child rapist and career criminal. Here's our Europe correspondent, Phoebe Bowden.
The disappearance of 3-year-old Maddie McCann. It's the mystery that's gripped the world for 13 years.
Madeleine Beth McCann.
German police now believe they know what happened and who is responsible. Christian Bruckner. The state prosecutor revealing the accused is a sex offender with several previous convictions who was also convicted of sexual abuse of children. Prosecutors say they have almost enough evidence to charge Bruckner with the murder of Maddie McCann. He lived in the area where the then 3-year-old was taken. Phone records put him there the day Maddie disappeared. The next day, he changed the registration of his car and left the area shortly after.
Kate and Jerry have welcomed this latest development. They are realistic. They simply want to know what happened to their daughter.
When Maddie disappeared, Portuguese authorities put together a list of 600 suspects. Bruckner's name wasn't on it. That didn't come until Scotland Yard got involved in the investigation. Several years later, German authorities were tipped off that the child sex offender had allegedly confessed to abducting Maddie. British police have also linked him to 2 cars found near where the little girl disappeared.
They need to know as they need to find peace, and I think anybody with children, in fact anybody at all, can understand that and relate to that.
And now, after more than a decade, Maddie McCann's parents may finally get that closure. Phoebe Bowden for 10 News First, London.
Well, while Donald Trump feels the heat over his response to the riots in the US, he has managed to secure the release of a Navy veteran who's been held captive in Iran for nearly 2 years. Michael White touched down in Switzerland, where he was greeted by US officials.
I do want to extend my personal thanks to President Trump for his efforts, both diplomatically and otherwise. It's making America great again, and I look forward to what's going to happen here in the future.
In return, the Americans had to release an Iranian physician convicted for trade violations. He's been behind bars in the US. Tens of thousands of people have defied bans to stage vigils marking 31 years since the Tiananmen Square crackdown in Beijing. China cited coronavirus fears for cancelling official events, but the decision comes off the back of its parliament ruling to implement new security laws in Hong Kong, effectively ending its independence. Prince Charles has spoken publicly for the first time about his personal experience with coronavirus. There was great concern for the heir to the throne after he contracted COVID-19 back in March. And he sympathises with the families of the tens of thousands of British people who have died from the virus.
I feel particularly for those, for instance, who've lost their loved ones but were unable to be with them at the time. That's, to me, the most ghastly thing.
In the interview, Prince Charles also revealed he was terribly sad he couldn't see his family while he was in lockdown. We'll stay with us. Still to come, the Hills District Councillor whose comments have made national news. And meet Bottle-O Bob, how recycling cans helped him change his community.
We are working for a better future.
It's the final days of Anaconda's massive 20 to 50% off store-wide sale. Huge savings on camping gear, bikes, kayaks, fishing gear, clothing, footwear and more. Some exclusions apply. 20 to 50% off sale. Hurry, final days at Anaconda.
Krispy Kreme Snickers. Oh, sorry, hang on a sec. 1.5 metres. Social distancing. But I don't make the rules.
Krispy Kreme Snickers. New at 7-Eleven.
So what did you end up getting?
I bought a Jeep.
You bought a Jeep?
Mm-hmm. And so did over 100,000 other Australians. But for some, owning a Jeep wasn't as enjoyable as driving one, which is why Jeep have now committed to cap price servicing and more dedicated technical specialists. So every driver is looked after. What do you think of that, Michael?
I'm in.
Even at the best of times, finding a good job can be hard. And the same goes for finding and keeping good employees. That's why JobKeeper is here, to help Australian businesses keep their current staff and to help employees keep their current jobs, which goes a long way to keeping your business going, even if you're self-employed, so that when you're ready to start up again or get back to work, we can all get back to business sooner. To find out more, visit jobkeeper.gov.au, authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
Meet the crew. They got their own way of betting. And this is me. I've always got the answer.
Make this Saturday one to remember. Get $5 odds for either Dawn Passage or Victorum to win the Stradbroke Handicap. PointsBet.
Welcome back. Well, there are calls tonight for a Liberal councillor from Sydney's Hillshire to apologise after he refused a young mum's request to have an acknowledgement of country at council meetings. Brooke Collins suggested that Indigenous Australians could have wiped out another race 70,000 years ago. He's now keeping quiet after his comments made headlines across the country.
It's a recognition of an ancient culture.
Please join me as we acknowledge the traditional owners and pay our respects to elders, past and present.
That's found an important place in modern Australia.
We acknowledge our past
and stand here for our future country.
Except for this council.
It's past time. It was time years ago. It should have been happening already. It's absolutely disgusting that it's not.
2 days ago, young mum Michaela Galloway was moved to email her local council after seeing an online petition. The response she got back left her speechless.
Those views are wrong, and his facts were just ridiculous.
They came from this man, North Ward councillor Brooke Collins, who also has a medal in the Order of Australia. He wrote, "You may want to find out where Indigenous people originated from, and it wasn't here in Australia. They too turned up on our shores unannounced." Adding, "How do you know they didn't wipe out another race when they arrived here 70,000 years ago?"
I think it's a really negative reflection on what a OAM is. If someone like that can hold an OAM, you know, it's yeah.
Indigenous woman Samantha Wiley started the petition that now has over 14,000 signatures. She has been given permission to speak on behalf of local elders.
We need to acknowledge this so when we go into the future generations of Indigenous children, they can see that pride. It can't be swept under the rug anymore. We need these children to understand they can take pride in their culture.
He is on the wrong side of history and certainly holds attitudes that very few people hold these days.
Despite repeated requests, neither Councillor Collins nor the Mayor of the Hillshire Council would speak to 10 News First on camera today. There are now calls for senior Liberals, including the Premier, to disendorse the councillor over his comments and for him to resign.
Is this what the New South Wales State Liberals accept as an appropriate leader of our community?
Labor councillors at the Hillshire say they will continue to push for an acknowledgement of traditional owners at meetings, and they now have some determined constituents behind them.
There's my children who are growing up in this society, and I want them to know that this is an accepting society.
Ursula Hager for 10 News First.
Well, it looks like the news agency, the Australian Associated Press, has been saved with a group of investors and philanthropists led by former News Corp boss Peter Tonner set to take ownership. The binding sale contract will be finalised in the next 2 weeks. It's expected, though, that there will still be job losses, with the details still to be ironed out. Time for another traffic update with Marina Ivanovic, watching the start of the long weekend traffic. How's it looking right now, Marina?
Hugh, it is an absolute nightmare for Pennant Hills Road, which is why we're here again having a look at the northbound run. The long weekend traffic's causing lots of northbound delays. We just had an earlier two-car smash heading northbound as well, and as you can see, it's bumper to bumper in both directions. Northbound traffic back past the M2. We've also got the Pacific Highway, an absolute crawl up to the M1 as people head out of Sydney tonight. And just a reminder that double demerits are in force until midnight Monday. I'm Marina Ivanovic in the Aussie Home Loans Traffic Chopper.
Well, Matt Burke is now here with us with the day in sport. The Bulldogs are already under a bit of pressure, Matt. Now there's potentially some COVID-19 risk.
Yeah, that's right, Hugh. All because a club legend was not cleared for the Bulldogs bubble. Those details next. Plus, the Dragons coach digging in his heels and reckons he can solve the club's problems. And how the Giants captain is taking inspiration from an NBA legend.
Your home means more than ever, and so does having the right home loan. To understand your options, go straight to Aussie. We'll help ensure you have the right loan for right now.
There you go, Slugger.
See?
Steve.
Domino's is bringing New York to your living room with the new tastier New Yorker range. Now with even more authentic ingredients, like huge pepperoni on a giant-sized New York pizza. Try one from just $19.95 delivered from Domino's.
Oh. Hi.
Hi, Mum, it's me. I'm just checking in.
Oh, hi, darling. Can you hear me?
Yes, but it's a video call, so move the phone away from your ear.
No, away on. Can't see you. Oh, yeah. There you are. Hi.
So good to see your face, Mum.
You too, dear.
You don't need Australia's best network until you do.
Well, I think he's a gorgeous man, but his hair bothered him. And it bothered me that it bothered him.
So he booked the appointment.
Reached your turning point? The doctors at Ashley and Martin could help regrow your hair.
Thanks for calling ING. This is Adam speaking. How can I help you? No, I'm currently working from home.
Oh, you can call any time, so...
Sorry. And she's currently nibbling at my toe right now.
Yeah, working from home was a bit tricky at first, but...
There's definitely been some stray farts, hasn't there, mate?
And now your loan's on a fixed rate. Can I help you with anything else?
No, you've made my day.
Well, whatever 2020 throws at you, we're here for a chat anytime.
Too easy.
Good evening. Well, the Bulldogs can resume training for Monday's clash against the Dragons, with club great Terry Lamb testing negative to coronavirus. At the Dragons, under siege coach Paul McGregor believes he can keep his job by backing a debutant while demanding more from Ben Hunt and Corey Norman.
Just another week on the merry-go-round for the man they call Mary. Paul McGregor has noted but not taken to heart the criticism of his coaching.
I don't read into it or listen to it too much, but I've got caring friends and family that remind me of it.
McGregor believes he has the players and board on side.
There's been no conversation around anything about myself. It's just about, obviously, I need to get results. I get that.
McGregor wants minimum wage rookie halfback Adam Clune to guide the side, freeing up Ben Hunt to run more and Corey Norman to attack from fullback.
I haven't been happy with the combinations there at the moment, so I made the change. Benny Hunt, Corey Norman are our better players, so for us to be successful, our better players need to play well. They understand that.
This is what became of the Bulldogs' scheduled interviews today, cancelled like their training. They were banned because Terry Lamb breached biosecurity rules by attending yesterday's session. He has since tested negative for coronavirus.
A handshake with somebody like Terry, a legend at the club who's worked at the club, has known Kieran and Kieran's 200th first grade game. I don't think it's that serious to get, punished that hard.
Canterbury legend Peter Tunks says the Bulldogs and Dragons are committed to their coaches for better or worse.
If you sign somebody else at this point in time, you've got to pay the coach out, you've got to pay a coach to come in, and he will want people around him that he feels comfortable with. And I don't really think financially at this point in time either club can afford this.
Bence Hammerley for 10 News First.
James Tedesco has been cleared of COVID-19 a day after missing the Roosters' humiliation of Brisbane. The 59-0 loss was the worst in Broncos' defeat in history, leaving coach Anthony Seibold feeling the pressure.
Plenty to pick up at the weekly garbage collection at the Broncos, as questions were asked on their walk of shame.
What do you think went wrong last night? Joe, what do you have to say to the fans?
The description of last night's 59-0 shellacking from the Premiers.
It's horrendous. I mean, the Broncos tonight, they were just diabolical.
It's just not up to scratch.
It was Brisbane's worst loss in their history for the second time in 5 NRL games. No excuses by their coach, except...
I put out a young side. If we keep chucking young blokes in, we've got a young team. We've got the youngest team in the comp.
Players were too embarrassed to attend the post-match press conference, despite being obligated to do so under NRL guidelines.
You can't look at the bloke beside you. You've got to look at yourself.
It had the raging bull teeing off on his former club.
No, they built a $30 million facility quicker than what they're rebuilding a team. They've got the pick of the state.
Just under the furnace, under the blowtorch.
They weren't ready for the blowtorch. Well, that's what the pre-season is. That's your job as a coach.
It seems Ben Teo's return to Brisbane for the rest of the 2020 season can't come quick enough. while the Roosters aren't resting on their good form.
There's no weeks off this week, this year, so yeah, I'll be probably staying off the piss this weekend.
Doing anything possible to stop Manly's Tom Trbojevic is the Eels' game plan tomorrow night.
It's about containing him and not giving him opportunities or too much space.
Manly just as concerned by the opposite number one.
A young Gutherson who was full of energy, he's never off the ball, he's always throwing something at you.
Michael Caine for 10 News First.
And Giants captain Stephen Coniglio has revealed adopting the mindset of NBA superstar Kobe Bryant helped take his footy to another level.
It kind of is an alter ego that, you know, when he does pass the line or he's training or whatever, he turns into a different person, and that pursuit of getting better every day and working hard sort of evolved really into, you know, my training, which then led to the games, and I think that was, you know, one of the biggest turning points in my career.
And we'll have an in-depth interview with the new Giants skipper in our next sports break a little later in the bulletin. The Brisbane Lions have delivered a touching show of solidarity at the Gabba, taking a knee against racism. The side's Indigenous members candidly opened up about the impact of George Floyd's death and what the US race riots have had on them. The club says the mark of solidarity was much about their teammates as it is about the race debate. And Hugh, June 11, a reminder, is when the AFL starts off their rebooted season.
Fantastic, thank you, Matt. Coming up next, the Premier against the protesters, the latest on the Black Lives Matter rally planned for Sydney tomorrow.
And Maroubra is magnificent. It's 16 degrees right there, and now it won't be long. It won't be long now. The long weekend, it's hunting you down, and the Daily Bailey weather wall is next.
Alex Smart Globe, just $23.98.
Where you find a competitor's lower price and the same stocked item will beat it by 10%. Shop at Bunnings wherever you are, whenever you want.
Harvey Norman, everything for the heart of your home. With great deals across all the leading brands in cooking. Save up to $1,000 on Smeg Portofino packages and up to $700 on Smeg linear ovens. Save up to $800 on selected AEG kitchen appliances. Save up to $700 on selected Neff cooking appliances. Save up to $300 on selected Miele ovens and cooktops. Take advantage of 60 months interest-free. Updating, upgrading, or renovating. Create your dream kitchen now at Harvey Norman.
Go! Put away the jigsaw puzzles, the footy is back. And so is Tab's Same Game Multi, where you can combine your favourite NRL markets all in the one bet. Available on every NRL game this season. Tab, long may we play.
Gamble responsibly.
There you go, Slugger. See? Steve?
Domino's is bringing New York to your living room with the new Tastier New Yorker range. Now with even more authentic ingredients, like huge pepperoni on a giant-sized New York pizza. Try one from just $19.95 delivered from Domino's.
There's gonna be Monday Night Mayhem when Marty, Denise and Mel join Ed and Sam on new Have You Been Paying Attention? Monday.
Well, we all need a dose of good news just at the moment. This should do the trick. A grandfather of, count them, 30 has done a really rubbish job, but that, it turns out, is not such a bad thing. He has collected thousands of kilos of cans and cashed them in to build a skate park for the local community.
Bottle-O Bob is a can-do kind of man. He's collected 294,000 pieces of trash and turned them into treasure.
We needed to hop in and help and do something, and that's when I came up with the idea of recycling.
Through the Return and Earn scheme, he made $27,000. And while the 81-year-old might not carve it up himself, he knew his community needed a skate park, and that's where the money went.
It's surprising the people who got behind the vision, and that's how it all came together and just got bigger and bigger.
For his efforts, he's been named New South Wales Environmental Citizen of the Year.
I couldn't think of anyone more deserving of this award.
There's a lot of landfills gone into this skate park.
Wentworth is where the Murray and the Darling meet, and for the last few years the Shire's experienced drought and some hard times, which makes Bob and his award even more important.
anything positive that we can get out here at the moment is a win for us.
Bob will receive $5,000. That's a lot of cans, but the grandfather of 30 isn't spending it on himself. It's going right back into the community. This time, he's donating to the local daycare. He's just one of the many cleaning up the state.
A range of other environmental initiatives that people can get involved with their local councils.
So good riddance to bad rubbish. Charlotte Goodlett for 10 News First.
On you, Bob. Now, Tim Bailey, it's your turn to give us some good news.
It's an easy one, Hugh. It really is. We're longing for a long weekend. Have 3 days off ever been more eagerly anticipated? I think not. So now's the time for the weatherman to step up, hit the weather wall and deliver the blue sky. We can do it for day one of the 3-day weekend at the very least. Have a look at Australia there. That's pretty good news for your Saturday. Hardly a cloud unless you live down in Taswegia and southern Victoria. New South Wales, please note, pretty much fine and blue, and that will do. Saturday's going to be a real good looking day. All right, put that down to the high pressure system that is still drifting across New South Wales on its way east. A little cold front will move just south of the state, won't affect us too much. A little bit of a coastal shower maybe Sunday, Monday, but it's a good weather pattern for a long weekend. Let's have a look at the business of the brolly. Predicted precipitation, drips and drops across this great nation. Far north Queensland cops a little bit. Coastal, so does the north coast of New South Wales. It's down in southern Victoria and southeastern and southwestern Tasmania, and that is about all she wrote. OK, where do we get our Friday feels? I know where we do. We open up Australia's most famous photo album and we start thinking about a weekend where we can travel. Look at this for a shot, would you? Shakers Snaps, at the Bower in Manly. Have a look at it. Surfer paddles in, photo bombed by the Dolphins. A cracker, shared on Instagram. Hashtag Daily Bailey NSW and follow the little weatherman, Daily Bailey 10 on Instagram. Beautiful work. Next up on the screen that's got to be seen, a winter storm at Casino. You were there. Dear Harton Photography. Glorious gear as the sky had a bit of a crack. We'll get rid of that stuff for the long weekend and put some blue across your sky. All right, and Clovelly, that's a Friday feel. That's what we want Saturday to look like. Look at that. Thank you very much, Det 777 Photography, taking us to Clovelly and putting us in the mood for a long weekend where we can actually go somewhere. How good is that? All right, let's go and check Australia out. Around the country we go. Broome, fine and sunny and 30 degrees. Perth, perfect, 25 degrees. Down to 0 in the Alice. It'll be chilly, but 20 degrees is a nice maximum without a cloud. As we've said, Cairns, a drip and a drop across your rooftop, 26 degrees. Darwin, delightful, 31. Brisbane, 23, fine and sunny. Canberra, minus 4 degrees. Go to sleep in your Ugg boots, top of 12. Melbourne, 6 through to 13. And Hobart, down to 3 for a top of 10. New South Wales tomorrow looks like this. Sensational postcard stuff. 17 Broken Hill, Dubbo 17 degrees. Orange down to minus 3. White Lawn, top of 11. Wagga Wagga, Jack Frost, then a top of 13. Canberra, as we've said, minus 4. Wow, that's biting. Bega, minus 2. So it's chilly early, but it's charming late, and the blue sky all over the coast. Look at that. Good looking day one of a long weekend. Into Sydney suburbs on a sensational Saturday. Parramatta 19, Bankstown 19 degrees, Terry Hills 17, Gosford 18 degrees, Mascot 19 degrees. The blue sky will be smiling at you. The official forecast for Sydney tomorrow, mainly fine and sunny, down to 17 for a top score of 19 degrees. 7-day forecast and a good in-depth look at that lovely long weekend in 25 minutes.
The protesters versus the Premier. Authorities go to the Supreme Court to stop a Black Lives Matter march in Sydney due to fears of mass COVID-19 infections. America pauses to honour George Floyd at a moving memorial, but fresh police violence sparks yet more anger. And big news for league fans. Crowds will return to the NRL, but not everyone is invited. Well, tonight, the Premier and the New South Wales Police Force are trying to get the Supreme Court to ban a Black Lives Matter protest scheduled for Sydney tomorrow. The plan was for an estimated 10,000 people to march from Town Hall to Belmore Park, but that all changed this afternoon amid fears the crowd could spread COVID-19. Stella Todorovic is live for us at the Supreme Court this evening. Stella, what's the latest on the court's decision?
Well, Hugh, we still don't have a decision from the Supreme Court. However, it is getting very heated in the courtroom. Dr. Kerry Chant, the Chief Health Officer here in New South Wales, has started to give evidence. She has expressed some concerns about COVID-19 spreading through the crowd if 10,000 people were to march on the streets of Sydney as expected tomorrow. Gladys Berejiklian yesterday said that she would never stand in the way of anyone demonstrating in a COVID-safe way. However, her stance changed today when they revised the numbers. 10,000 people RSVPing to that event on Facebook.
When a protest organisation cannot guarantee that those participating in the protest will adhere to social distancing, will adhere to the health orders, that is deemed an illegal act.
And if they haven't complied with the Supreme Court, then obviously all the police powers that are available to us can be used. But we would much rather see a peaceful outcome.
Hugh, protesters and organisers of the protest have gathered here today. They've expressed their disappointment. They say that social distancing measures will be in place and that they will be protesting regardless of the decision, that they will not be silenced on this issue. A vigil is expected to be held at Belmore Park tomorrow night at the conclusion of the march for George Floyd and for David Dungay as well.
OK, Stella Todorovic, thank you for the update. After days of anarchy, today the US paused to honour George Floyd. A moving memorial service paid tribute to the man whose death in custody sparked protests around the world. Demonstrations were more subdued today, but there were still moments of shock, with police knocking one protester unconscious. A warning, parts of this story are graphic.
10 days of rage met with 8 minutes and 46 seconds of silence. The time it took for George Floyd to die under the knee of a Minneapolis police officer.
As you go through these long 8 minutes, think about what George was going through, laying there for those 8 minutes, begging for his life.
COVID restrictions took a back seat to paying tribute to George Floyd, not just about how he died, but how he lived.
George, he was like a general. Every day he walks outside, there'd be a line of people, just like when we came in, wanted to greet him and wanted to have fun with him.
When he would wrap his arms around you, you would just feel like, you were, everything could just go away. Any problems you had, any concerns you had.
It's time for us to stand up in George's name and say, get your knee off our necks.
Fiery protests raged as his gold-plated coffin left the chapel.
That could have been my dad! That could have been my brother! That could have been my cousin! That could have been my nephew!
George's brother made a plea to protesters.
I'm proud of the protests, but I'm not proud of the destruction.
While many police have joined in solidarity, brutality continues in LA. And this in Buffalo. Police attempting to enforce a curfew knock a man to the ground and just keep moving. Fortunately, he only suffered a concussion. Back in Minneapolis, 3 of the 4 officers involved in Floyd's death faced court. Their combined bail set at more than $3 million. Thomas Lane had been an officer for less than a week.
What would your state of mind be if you work your rear end off to become a cop and 4 days on a job you're accused of murder?
A point that's met with zero sympathy from the loved ones of the life that was lost.
He did not die of common health conditions. He died of a common American criminal justice malfunction.
Natasha Exelby for 10 News First.
Well, back home, offensive, outdated and on the wrong side of history. That's how comments by a Liberal councillor from Sydney's Hills Shire are being described tonight, after he suggested Indigenous Australians could have wiped out another race on this continent 70,000 years ago. All of that came after a request from a local mum that the council acknowledge traditional owners at their regular meetings. Ursula Hager has more.
On June 3rd, 1992, the High Court overturned terra nullius, the notion that no one owned Australia before Britain laid claim to it. But when Michaelia Galloway used the 28th anniversary to write to her local council asking them to acknowledge traditional owners at meetings, she got an answer that left her stunned.
Absolutely shocking. I actually, when I first read it, I had no words.
The reply came from this man, North Ward councillor Brooke Collins, who also has a medal in the Order of Australia. He wrote, "You may want to find out where Indigenous people originated from. And it wasn't here in Australia. They too turned up on our shores unannounced. How do you know they didn't wipe out another race when they arrived here 70,000 years ago?"
It was astounding to me that someone has those views in the first place, but let alone someone who's an elected member of our council.
Samantha Wiley started a petition to change the council's view. It now has over 14,000 signatures.
It can't be swept under the rug anymore. We need these children to understand they can take pride in their culture.
Despite repeated requests, neither Councillor Collins nor the Mayor of the Hills Shire Council would speak to 10 News First on camera today. There are now calls for senior Liberals, including the Premier, to disendorse the councillor over his comments and for him to resign.
They are not views I feel that the Premier would agree with, and I'm calling on the Premier, Gladys Berejiklian, to step in here.
One councillor from the Hills Shire who would speak is Labor's Ryan Tracy. He says their side of politics will continue to push to have traditional owners recognised.
It's high time that we did get the federal and the state government to bring this council to heed.
And these two aren't giving up either.
I will keep going. I won't give up.
It's past time. It was time years ago. It should have been happening already. It's absolutely disgusting that it's not.
Ursula Hager for 10 News First.
A 23-year-old Irish citizen has narrowly avoided jail for crashing a car while drunk and seriously injuring his mates before trying to flee the country back to Ireland. Terence Wilkinson cried in court today, saying he was an idiot and a coward for leaving his passengers trapped in the wreck of his car in July last year. In a move that's set to further inflame tensions with China, overseas buyers looking to invest in Australia could soon face a tough new national security test. The federal government has unveiled what it describes as the biggest reform to foreign investment in 75 years. It would give the Treasurer the power to stop or overturn so-called sensitive sales. But the PM doesn't see why it would weaken our relationship with Beijing.
Well, no, I don't believe why it should. I mean, countries make decisions on their own interests for their own rules, and we respect the rules.
The coalition hopes to have the new legislation passed by the end of this year. The federal court has ordered the Commonwealth Bank to pay a $5 million penalty over a product offered to rural customers. Those who signed up to the Agri-Advantage Plus package were overcharged fees and interest and underpaid interest on their savings. The court ruled the bank failed to ensure customers were receiving the proper perks. Nearly 9,000 people were ripped off more than $8 million, but the court acknowledged the behaviour was not deliberate by the bank, and the bank has already apologised, fixed the problem and reimbursed those affected. Well, coming up next, the Aussie retailer who is experiencing a COVID-19 boom. In sport, a coach under pressure backs his players to turn around the club's fortunes. And the new Giants captain admits they did go missing in last year's grand final.
When your throat is swollen or painful, standard lozenges may not be enough. Call on Strepsils Extra. Its advanced formula goes beyond our standard lozenges and numbs pain fast.
Get Strepsils Extra at Chemist Warehouse now.
Do you know what type of cough you have? Do you have the right cough medicine? Bronchodual relieves any cough. It can be used for the relief of dry, tickly, chesty, mucus or phlegm coughs. Bronchodual relieves any cough.
It's the final days of Anaconda's massive 20 to 50% off store-wide sale. Huge savings on camping gear, bikes, kayaks, fishing gear, clothing, footwear and more. Some exclusions apply. 20 to 50% off sale. Hurry, final days at Anaconda.
The Amazon mid-year sale is live now. Time to get great deals on electronics, fashion, homewares and more. Shop amazon.com.au. Easy as.
When your hair's not weighed down, you can do the day. Introducing new Pantene 0% silicone. Unlike silicone found in ordinary shampoos, new Pantene has nourishing lipids. The difference is clear. New Pantene 0% silicone formula gives you lightweight, smooth hair that lasts through to the next day. Do 0% silicone. Do new Pantene.
Life's changed for all of us, but Bupa's here to help. Because isolation shouldn't mean you're on your own. Because you can't get out, we'll help you at home. Because our health has never been so important. And because by staying apart, we'll get through this together. Bupa, because life happens.
At Chemist Warehouse, we are always here for you. Check out our amazing June catalogue sale on now. Get Wellgrove Immune Support Olive Leaf Extract $18.75. Swiss Hemp Seed Oil 1,000 milligrams 60 capsules $14.99. INC Pre-Workout Plus 300 gram $19.99. And any OptiSlim Meal Replacement Shake $27.99. Shop in-store, online or call your local store to arrange contact-free delivery. Chemist Warehouse. Great savings every day.
Go ahead, give your taste buds a thrill and think beyond the flame and grill. Sausage bake, rolled, pan-fried or in a stew. You'll love all the things our sausages can do. The British Sausage Ham and Bacon Company. Australian made, the British way.
Go Gaga tonight on 10.
And here we go.
Woo-hoo! From 7:30, Jamie goes Gaga over his latest creation. Then later, Graham goes Gaga for Gaga.
People have the right to dance at home, so crank it as loud as you can.
Crank it up with Jamie and Graham tonight.
Well, he was already a hero, but tonight a Gold Coast diver who saved a young whale from shark nets is again being showered with praise. The Tinny Man has handed over the funds that were raised for him to ensure more marine lives can be saved.
A handsome reward for a hard day's work.
Thank you very much for all the supporters and Django as well.
Instead of pocketing the money, though, Django Hopkins today paid it forward.
It's going to buy equipment for Sea Shepherd and Apex Harmony, and it'd go to a good cause.
Last month, the experienced diver came across a young humpback whale trapped in shark nets off Burleigh Heads. Unaware help was on the way, and without any hesitation, he leapt straight in to free the stricken mammal himself.
I'm a good enough swimmer, I'm a good enough diver to know, where my limits are, and I had no issues.
In doing so, though, Django breached a number of laws that protect the beloved sea creatures and the often loathed shark nets. The Department of Fisheries launched an investigation that could have seen him hit with a fine of nearly $27,000. But within hours of the rescue, the online community rallied around this humble hero.
I was never expecting that in my whole life. Realistically, I'm proud of that.
More than $16,000 was raised to help pay Django's fines, but when he was let off with a warning, he instead donated it to conservation group Sea Shepherd.
We've got some ideas and some equipment that this is going to help us continue that work.
As staunch critics of the use of shark nets, Sea Shepherd gave Django a certificate of bravery for his actions.
And just an average bloke that wasn't going to let a whale die in the nets.
With more whales on the way, Django will leave any future rescues to the experts. Matthew Howard for 10 News First.
Great pictures too. Now, the COVID-19 impact on our retail sector is working both ways. While there was a record overall sales plunge last month, one Australian company is raking in profits. Here's Gillian Bowen with our finance news.
Hello there is the future of Australian retail online shopping. The latest business update from e-retailer Kogan.com might have you thinking that. The company, which sells pretty much a bit of everything, is booming as people's shopping habits shift during COVID. Sales in April and May were up by more than 100% compared to a year ago. The number of new customers grew 126,000 in a month. Just yesterday we were talking about a record plunge in sales in April for the wider retail sector, which includes a lot of bricks and mortar businesses, but this pandemic pivot means Kogan is now worth almost 5 times more than Myer. One of the big 4 banks is stepping up efforts to lure in new customers. Westpac has slashed one of its variable home loan rates by 24 points to 2.69%. It's the lowest on offer by a major bank, but it's only for mortgagees who own at least 30% of their home. The ASX 200 has ended the week in positive territory and it did pass 6,000 a couple of times. Qantas is still rising and at one point today was up 16% for the week. Sydney Airport is following the airline up, but healthcare giant CSL is down despite unveiling a deal with the University of Queensland to develop, manufacture and distribute a COVID-19 vaccine. To the dollar, it's finishing the week strong and is up against all the major currencies, and that's finance.
And that was Gillian Bowen. It's time now for more sport with Matt Burke. And Matt, the Dragons coach has basically thrown it over to the team.
Yeah, that's right, Hugh. Good evening. Paul McGregor says he has complete faith in his players to turn around the club's results. The Dragons are winless and couldn't score a point against the Warriors. McGregor says all the whispers about his coaching future have come from the media.
There's been no internal conversation around anything about myself. It's just about, obviously, I need to get results. I get that.
And the Bulldogs can resume training after Terry Lamb tested negative to coronavirus. He breached biosecurity protocols by attending their session yesterday. Fresh from suffering their heaviest defeat in the club's history, the Broncos faced more bad news after breaking NRL guidelines. In the wake of their 59-0 loss to the Roosters, Brisbane players failed to attend the post-match press conference.
Just under the furnace, under the blowtorch. We just didn't handle that pressure. So it was really disappointing. It was almost like Groundhog Day tonight, to last week. We just had no field position, no possession. And
the Broncos will welcome the return of Ben Teo from English Rugby, who's signed for the rest of 2020. Stephen Coniglio admits the Giants weren't there in last year's AFL Grand Final, but the mental scars from the loss have now healed. The 26-year-old has given himself and the GWS leadership group a new look since taking over as captain. This exclusive chat with Ros Kelly.
That's an impressive isolation beard you've got going there.
I'll get a haircut actually after this interview. So now that footy and footy's back on, I thought I'd better trim it up.
How did you pass time over the last couple of months?
My girlfriend and I just went straight back to Perth. Started had a little bit of piano time. Played a lot of tennis.
How's the body feeling?
Body's great. Feeling as good mentally as I am physically at the minute.
What's your style of captaincy?
I just want to be a winning captain. Having a real connection with our staff and players on a personal level and building relationships.
If you have to, will you come down hard on the players?
Yeah, for sure. Need to have those tough conversations when they arise.
You have a new look leadership group around you?
Yeah, I do. I think it's been refreshing. I think having those guys sort of step up. I was with Cooper Cront coming in as our leadership coach. I think it was just great for him to come in with a new set of sort of ideas, and I was really keen, along with the whole playing group, that we really wanted Lockie and Toby and Jeremy to be part of the official leadership group. I know the weight they hold amongst the group.
What brand of footy do you want the boys to play this season?
I guess that hard edge, that brutal sort of tackling and all that. I love. I know the boys, feed off that energy when we are playing like that.
Is there any scarring from the grand final?
We addressed it, and any potential, I wouldn't say scarring, but any doubts in guys' head were really quick to address it.
And what do you feel is the most important lesson the Giants learnt from the grand final?
That we're not there yet. I know that we've done the hard work and they've known we're a big threat and know what we're very much capable of.
Now, it's a problem all sports teams are facing at the moment with minimum crowds. How do they provide maximum cheer? Well, in Taiwan, they tried a dragon boat race, but the idea hit rough seas when the fish at the back started floundering.
我说鱼头君啊，你的姿势怎么看起来怪怪的呢？
And not even a tiger talking to could steady the ship, and where certain footy clubs will probably take a pass on this idea, given it's more weird than wonderful. Now, we won't leave them high and dry, so the mascots row away with our play of the day. Hugh, they can take... Is the word mascotting? I think it could be. They can take it to another level.
It could be mascotting, especially when you're a chopped in half fish.
That's right.
There's a mascot you can get behind. Coming up next, it's officially the weekend. Tim Bailey's back to tell us how it's all shaping up.
Things. And then I carry stuff.
What do you do again?
I drive a Hilux.
Australia's #1 selling vehicle 4 years running. Oh, what a feeling. Toyota.
Chloe and Zoe are twins and Amy customers, so you have the same taste.
We both like our crafted cushions and finished faux fur. We love our HD, LED, LCD, 4K pixel TVs.
Do you choose to save now or later on your insurance?
Later.
Buy a home or car insurance policy and Amy Flexi Premiums lets you vary your excess to save now or later. Choose a higher excess to save now or choose a lower excess to save at claim time.
You're with Amy.
When life gives you messiness, Godfrey's Stocktake sale gives you cleanliness. Ecovac D-Bot 600 robot, $299, save $100. iVac Steam Mop, $59, save $40. Godfrey's Cleanliness.
Go on.
At Devondale, we believe great milk comes from cows that graze free.
What if I get coronavirus?
How do I do my rehab now?
Why is it so hard to get out of bed? COVID-19 is impacting us all differently, which is why we've introduced Medibank COVID-19 Health Assist. With direct access to hundreds of healthcare experts, eligible members can receive health advice and support from their homes at no extra cost. Visit medibank.com.au to see how we're providing better support for our members.
Up next, we speak with George Floyd's family after his emotional and inspiring memorial in Minneapolis. Through the pain, anger and violence, hope shines through. The touching moments from protests across America. And Tim Tams, trampolines and some very tricky bends. Tommy checks in with some seriously talented Aussie kids. The project next.
Reach for the stars. How NASA is rewarding talented Aussies.
No matter what skill set you have or background you have, here's your chance basically to work for the space program.
In a new era of space exploration. Exclusive on 10 News First, Monday at 5.
How good does this Friday feel? What about the anticipation? What about the longing for this long weekend? Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit special. Let's hit the Daily Bailey weather wall, the forecast where we get it all. Let's get this one right as New South Wales gets ready to travel for the first time in a long time. All right, hello, high pressure system, my old friend. Nice to see you there. Nice to see you dominating the state of New South Wales for this particular 72-hour period. Little cold front moves just south of the state and will cop that. We like the fact that it misses us. It goes through Tasmania and Victoria. Another big high pressure system down in the Bight will follow this high as it slowly moves out to sea. The big low pressure system out near New Zealand, which has caused hazardous surf, some brilliant surf conditions across the New South Wales coast for the past 2 or 3 days, actually starts to drop tomorrow. Blue sky for most of New South Wales is the good news on day one of a very special long weekend. All right, let's have a look at the great state, and that is what I'm dishing up on a super Saturday. Broken Hill, 17 degrees, fine and sunny. Dubbo, down to 0, top of 17, fine and sunny. Orange down to -3. Jack Frost in town, tops of 11 degrees. Wagga Wagga -1 to a top of 13. They're good-looking days. Canberra, yeah, you're going to have the shivers. You're going to have the shakes. Don't get out of bed too early. -4 your low for a top of a dirty dozen. A little bit windy, but at least the sky's blue and you've got something to do. Bega -2 to 17. Nowra does 17 degrees. Newcastle 19 degrees. It's delightful. Tamworth 18 degrees. Coffs Harbour 20 degrees. See this map of New South Wales? It's under a big blue sky. Go and visit somewhere and go and spend some money with some people that need you to. It's going to be a ripper, isn't it? All right, let's go. The super suburbs of Sydney, I've got a feeling lots of people in their cars headed out of town. Penrith 19 degrees, Parramatta 19, Bankstown does 19. Fine and sunny Gosford, Terry Hill's terrific. Sydney 19 degrees, Mascot 19 degrees. 7-day forecast. Best part about this is the first 3, no office. 19, 17, 18 degrees. Few showers Monday, Tuesday, clearing up Wednesday. And in the Greater West, we go from sunshine to maybe a drip and a drop, but not too much of it. 17 Monday and 19 on Tuesday. Longing for a long weekend, Hugh. Here it comes.
Fantastic. Good on you, Tim. Enjoy it. Now, still no word from the Supreme Court right now on that Black Lives Matter protest for tomorrow. That is the news for this Friday, though. Have a great night.
Tonight, we speak with George Floyd's family after his emotional and